something, when I needed to process something, I'd pick up the guitar and I would just start playing, and out would come, a journal entry, basically, which would become a song. That's how I process stuff. So not having that place to go with things that I go through has been really challenging. And so this woman sitting next to me in this other chair with her IV drip going on, she said, "Oh, well, have you seen one of these?" And she pulls out her iPad and she opens it up and she opens the GarageBand app. Oh, I should have had my iPad here to show you. Anyway, there's a virtual guitar. And she said, "Try this." I could actually go get it and show it to you. But try this, she says. And I can actually strum the strings of this guitar and play different chords. And so I played 3 chords and I just started crying. Like, this is incredible. And so I went home and told my then boyfriend, and we were at dinner at his mom's, and he got the app on her iPad, and I played a song at dinner. And that was incredible. So I've written a few songs using the iPad as my instrument. And recently, with this Icelandic National League of North America, I was asked to play again in Winnipeg for our 100th convention last May. And I performed solo with my iPad as my backup, which is a huge, I'm so excited about that. I came home and then I played another show as a solo. And then every show that I played this past summer had an accompanist with me. I've got a blues duo, and then I've got a folk duo as well that I played with both of those. And, one accompanies me on piano and one on guitar. And then we would take a little bit of time and I would play a few songs just solo with the iPad. So I'm super, super excited about that, because that's giving me a whole new realm of possibilities of, you can't always afford to hire somebody. Like when I was going to Winnipeg, I couldn't afford to certainly fly somebody out there with me to play that gig, and even to hire a local musician to learn 4 or 5 songs to perform with me, because I was just doing one set and I do a few of them a cappella. So to be able to perform solo is just going to open, it's opening up huge, amazing doors that haven't been open to me for a couple of decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amen for technology in that respect, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I know I don't like it in a lot of ways. I think it's way overused, but wow, that way I'm super thrilled.
So you came up with your debut album, Still Hold True. Where was that recorded? Well,
primarily in my living room. I hired a recording engineer who worked full-time with Randy Bachman at the time, actually, of BTO. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but yeah, he was his full-time sound engineer, and I happened to be introduced to him, at this point that summer, and I said, "Oh my gosh, well, I'm actually just wanting to record an album, and I was wondering who to record with." And he said, "Well, Randy just told me he needs a week off, and so I'm looking for some work." So we started recording like 4 days later or something. It was awesome. And he, with the technology these days, again, yay technology, he brought in his computer with all of his professional gear on it, set it up at my place. We had professional microphones, and I had some of the bed tracks, just the rough tracks, already done with a friend of mine who played guitar and got the bones of the song down, the bare bones. And then he built it from there. I had a few musicians come in and do some tracks, and then Christian, my engineer, is also an amazing musician, and so he did some of the tracks as well.
And when did you record this? Was the album and the recording coming out the same year?
Yes, it did, and it was a long time ago, and it was in, where are we now? Well, my grandson's 13, and it was when he was in utero, so it was 13 years ago.
Wow. With regards to your album, did you have a specific songwriting process in place, or songs just came to you and you decided to record them?
Well, when I made the debut album, I already had well over 200 songs written.
Whoa.
So I basically, I'd been writing songs since I was 12, right? So I have now over 300 songs written. So I basically kind of brainstormed some ideas of album concepts and what I wanted that album to be about, and chose songs out of my list, my extensive list of already written songs. And I've got another, I've got actually 5 albums
wow.
picked out, but I just need to get the financing figured out to put them all together. So yeah, it's exciting to have that much material to work with, and yeah.
So what did you finally whittle it down to? How many tracks are on Still Hold True?
Right, that's the tricky one. I think there were some key songs that I wanted on there for sure. And interestingly, they're all a lot of them are family related. Mm-hmm. There's one that I wrote about the launching of my dad's wooden-hulled fish boat that we had built. There's one that I wrote about my stepdad's catamaran that he built. There's one for my Nana that I mentioned. There's one for my Icelandic grandmother after she passed, actually. There's some Icelandic words on it. So it was a lot of it was very family related. Mm-hmm. The opening track is called Aya. And I said, I love you. Wrote that into a song. And so that's how that album came to be, was just that all became about family.
Then were you happy with the final result?
Yeah, I was actually. I loved the recording process. So there are things that I would have, maybe done a little differently, but for the overall, I'm quite happy with the album.
Now, what was it like going back to the homeland, Iceland, and performing there?
It was incredible. It was a dream came true that I didn't even have the dream. It was so big. It was amazing.
What year was this?
And it was 2016.
Okay.
And so I was invited to come and sing for the Icelandic National League convention in Reykjavik, Iceland. And so, of course, I sang songs pertaining to my Icelandic heritage. And the same weekend that I was invited to come there to sing there, another friend at the convention where I was said, oh, if you're going, you have to talk to my friend. He does this blueberry festival up in the West Fjords. And I had introduced one of my songs saying that my great-grandmother was from the West Fjords. And so then I got hired to also play at the West Fjords in this beautiful little festival called Blauberjadagur, which means blueberry days. And it was directly across the board where my great-grandmother, my Amma, had been born in 1877, and her family had left from when she was 9 years old. And so what happened for me in anticipation of the trip was I started writing a song about her life. And it follows the circle of her life. It's called wild blueberries, because the fields in the West Fjords are covered in wild blueberries. And I imagined she and her sisters would have been sent out to gather the berries for the family larder as young girls. And so there I was, going to be singing in this same land. And the song starts with her being born there, and then the emigration to Canada, and then settling in the New World, and then my amma, my grandmother, being born, and then her children being born, including my father, and then the family moving west. And my long amma, the woman who I'm writing the song about, actually died in the house where I lived when I was born. And now I'm singing this song back in the land where she was born, and it was this whole life circle, and that's all in the song.
That's great.
And so I sang that in this beautiful, tiny little community hall in a village of 200 people. And I was standing at the back of the hall listening to the next group performing, and this big, burly Icelandic man comes up and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "You know, you really moved me." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And he says, no, to have this young woman come to the home country and sing this song for her grandmother, this is very moving. And he kind of like had tears in his eyes, it was just this remarkable, it was a very, very amazing moment for me. So it was fantastic. We shot some rough clips of video there on the West Fjords, which I have never put up because I was traveling with my romantic partner and musical partner, and shortly after I returned home, then relationship ended. And so I've never put the video clips up. No. But, rheumatoid can't keep me down, then neither can that. So hopefully I'll get something done with those soon.
Definitely. How did you come up with the singing amma?
The singing amma is my fledgling business in the childcare realm of things. It's actually my 14-year-old granddaughter who came up with that name when she wanted to listen to my album, primarily for that first song, Aya, which is kind of upbeat and happy. And she would say to her mama, "I want the singing amma." And so she called me the singing amma when she wanted the album played. And then one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up at about 3 a.m. and I went, "Oh, I know who I am. I'm the singing amma." And I had this whole splash, like tidal wave of ideas of this company. For this company, it's very multifaceted, and it's just really getting going. I do parenting education, so I write a monthly column in a local magazine under the name The Singing Amma. People ask me questions and I give some parenting advice. And I am a herbalist, so I make a whole lot of herbal products. And my branding is all The Singing Amma Company. And I am hoping in the next month or two to create a lullaby album of both traditional lullabies and ones that I've written myself, because I've been singing lullabies to kids for pretty close to 50 years now, 45 years or something. And I have a little guy that I look after now as a regular part of my day job. And in the summer months and the early fall, we would go out for walks. When I go for longer walks, I do use the power wheelchair. And then I'd get him up on my lap and put his head on a little pillow on the arm of the chair and put a little blanket over him and sing him lullabies, and he'd fall asleep. And so he'd have his nap just on my lap in the wheelchair out in the nice countryside that I live in. So that's inspired me. I got to do this album.
And what can you tell me about the book Letters to Sally?
Oh, Letters to Sally. I had a very dear friend named Sally who was a wonderful hippy-dippy, trippy woman who I've known since I was 14 years old. And when I got sick, she offered me to come and have nice hot baths in her big clawfoot bathtub, and then she would give me a massage for my painful body. And I was lying having a massage from her one day. My eyes were closed, and I had this vision of a book on a shelf in a bookstore that I had written called The Healing Path. And as this vision was coming into my head, Sally was giving me this